Hello, my name is Bertrand Beauregard. I've been practicing coaching for more than 15 years. I'm really passionate about mankind and the coaching. I do belong to the two biggest federations in coaching in the world, which are ICF and EMCC. With such commitment, I'm now certified master coach in coaching, MCC and ACTC by ICF, and senior practitioner EIA and supervisor ESIA by EMCC. Through my practice of coaching, mentoring, and supervision, I empower leaders and their team and coach. With this inclusive mindset, I've been writing over the last 2 years a book that is really special to my heart that is called Mentor Coaching. In this book, I explore what is at stake with coaching, the definition of coaching, our roots, our history, where do we come from, where do we belong, and where we are going. I explore the origin and the history of the federation, what is at stake with the credentials, certification, the accreditation, how to choose a coach, a mentor, a supervisor, how to work on yourself, how to be a good coach. And I will share from my experience many tips, many insight, advice, techniques to empower your level of coaching. So you will progress in your mastery of the core skill and get your credential, ACC, PCC or MCC more smoothly. During this process of writing, I was really inspired by the interview I've been leading with the pioneers. So with this podcast, my intent is to share this wisdom. So I hope that you will be inspired and that you will like it. If you had any comment or feedback, I will be really happy to read it regarding the podcast itself and the book. Now relax, enjoy, and explore the practice. So, hello, Vicky. I'm really happy to reconnect again. So, we chatted before earlier regarding the book I'm writing because I read your book and I'm writing about mentor coaching. And I read your book and I was really astonished by the amount of work you did doing interview about our origin, the legacy, where do we come from, where do we belong. And I really appreciate your stance and your rigor, your sharpness. And for me, it was really difficult at the end of the book to reconnect with you because you were off the radar, retired. And I met with Pamela Richard, and she told me that maybe Vicky is still living on a boat. So I can imagine you as a pirate. Then I sent my bottle in the water and we connected. So we had previously an interview, and I learned so much from your word, your vision, so that I wanted to offer in this podcast a bit more to the audience.
Mhm.
So can you tell me more about who you are and what is your connection with coaching? Because you did so much from my point of view.
Well, I am a very free spirit, as you know.
Mm.
And uh, when I got to coaching, it was 94, and coaching had just barely started.
Mm.
And I'd worked 20 some years in the Boeing company. So I was all business oriented, business suits. I was the first woman they sent to the executive MBA program. And at a point in time, I realized Boeing's values did not match my personal values. So I left and went to one of those firms that helps you find your next position. And the person who was helping me had just attended Laura Whitworth's Coach Training Institute.
Wow.
And I didn't even know coaching existed. And she said, sounds like your last job in Boeing, you were being a coach. And in hindsight, she was right. I
Mm.
worked in an organization where they brought in all sorts of high potential people to audit control systems to make sure that the managers that the organizations were running like they wanted them to run. And I coached them to do this. So you had an engineer out on the manufacturing floor trying to make sure things were running the way they were. They were trying to broaden these people for higher management.
Mm.
And so I decided to become a coach and then take coach training.
So 1994, before the creation
Mhm.
of ICF, and you mentioned already Laura.
Oh, yeah.
was one of the founders. So you trained with her?
No,
Ah,
no. I was a business person. Laura's Laura's Coach Training Institute was all about heart and community, relationships. No way, not for me. So Thomas Leonard had a coach training, had Coach University at the same time.
mm,
Thomas was very, very introverted. And so he was introverted. It was over the phone with lots of fax machines sending materials, and it was very impersonal. I could attend that. I was comfortable and lots of paper and lots of, you know, checklists and stuff. I couldn't have handled Laura's program at the time. So I went to Coach U
mm.
and eventually became an instructor for him.
For Thomas.
Yeah. And after I completed the program, yeah.
So you were one of the first trainee, probably at this time.
Early in the program, yeah. He was still creating the courses. He'd launch a course, and the people who were teaching at Berman Fort Gang was one of them. And who knows? Pam Richard may have, no, I think Pam came through Laura's program. And Laura once told me, she says she'd have a course to teach the next day, and she'd get reams of paper that night from Thomas telling her what was in the course. That's how Thomas did things.
And did you train on the phone with Thomas?
Of course.
Because he was a pioneer at this time. I can't imagine. I can see myself with 14 years old. You were already a coach. My God, I was playing basketball or playing the guitar probably. But
Uh-huh.
you were training on the phone
Mhm.
with him. Wow. How was it to train
Yeah.
as a coach on the phone?
Well, all my entire coaching practice was over the phone anyway,
Hmm.
and it was international. And I found that the phone gave a kind of a confidentiality and anonymity to people
Mhm.
and a trust. And once you got that relationship, and it allowed me to connect with a lot more people, and in many cases, connect deeper without having to travel. I mean, I did some coaching, face to face for some corporate clients, but it was much less efficient for them and for me.
Hmm. So it was quite pioneer at this time to be working on the phone. I can imagine that it was a way to scale regarding the vision of coaching and how to spread the message and the word, to the world. So I can see him as a pioneer and maybe someone offering a structure to the world of coaching. Because when I read your book, I understood that Landmark Forum was more about workshop, probably, and
Mhm.
empowerment rather than a structure of teaching and training.
Not really. Let me back up for a minute. Laura and Thomas knew each other.
Mhm.
And Laura's first office that she had as a coach was a corner of Thomas's office.
So they met at this time.
Well, they met before that. They both worked for Werner Erhard in Erhard training seminars. In fact, the story goes that Thomas, I think it was 1985, he was in the accounting department,
Mm.
and his boss took off on vacation, and he hired Laura, who was a burned out CPA. And so they had both attended all of Werner's courses, and Werner popularized personal growth.
Mm.
But along with Laura and Thomas, many of his trainers were the pioneers in coaching, because the next step, coaching originally started as helping people personal growth after they'd attended these seminars and stuff. Then they had someone to walk with them on their journey of personal growth. It was only in the mid 90s when Thomas and Laura started training people to be coaches that coaching itself became a profession.
Mm. So they brought it to the corporate world. Before it was more about empowerment and self-growth.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I think it was brought to the corporate world. Werner Erhard had a personal growth arm that went into corporations at the highest levels. The ones who really brought it more strongly to the corporate world were Sir John Whitmore
Yes.
and Tim Galway with the inner game of tennis. They started working with the principles of empowerment through tennis.
Mm.
And many of these corporate people played tennis, and they brought it in the UK and the US. Um, After a fact, Laura and Thomas brought it there. Some of their coaches brought it into business.
Mm.
They trained people to be business coaches, but again, the pioneers of coaching came from various backgrounds. They came from business, they came from, I'd say probably some of them were psychologists and stuff too. They came from adult education, all these things.
Mm. So every time it happened when I got into contact with you on the book, I'm really excited and into many questions. So I will slow down. Can we come back to the roots? You
Yes.
mentioned, for example, Werner Erhard and John Whitmore. Can
Mhm.
you tell me more about where do they come from? For example, Esalen and the legacy, the influence, before we focus on Thomas and Laura.
Oh yes, yeah. Well, it's like a web. Um, Thomas, or let me see, Werner was from California,
Mhm.
and I think he attended Esalen. In fact, I believe, where he met Sir Thomas Whitmore. I don't know if he was a sir at that time or not. Thomas Whitmore was a race car driver from the UK who explored a lot of these things. And Esalen was founded in the 1960s on the human potential movement. A lot of those people were humanistic psychologists that weren't Fritz Perls and stuff. They weren't really accepted in psychology because psychology was more the illness model. So I believe the two of them met there. Werner Erhard started large group awareness trainings where he'd have trainings with 500 people. And they'd, let's just say some people said they were the very difficult trainings, very confrontive trainings, which when I talked to Werner, he said that's what was needed at that time
Mm.
to get people to wake up. There were other groups that spun off, many of them that were also doing large group awareness training. So a lot of people were being introduced to the personal growth movement. Um, Sir John Whitmore was because he was more aristocracy in the UK. He was involved with I think it was Findhorn.
Mm.
That was more for the aristocracy, and they were exploring spirituality. And because Sir John Whitmore had been in Esalen too. He, as he described it, knew the hippies in California were doing the same stuff as the aristocracy in the UK. So in 1974, he brought Werner to the UK for the May seminars.
Mm.
And he mixed all these people up together because he knew it was the same thing.
So what I get is that you got the interview with John Whitmore and Werner Erhard, and you got this directly, this transmission.
Yeah, but just real quick, when I was doing, and I do have an interview addiction, I agree. I was interviewing people for my PhD. I would talk to somebody, they would say, well, you might talk to so and so, so and so, so and so. And I said, can I use your name? They said, sure. Can you give me their email? Kind of like you, sure. So I emailed Sir John Whitmore in the morning, my time, and said, I'm doing this and it's confidential and all that. So that afternoon, I'm sitting on the boat and the phone rings. I pick it up, and this British voice says, is this a good time to interview me? And it was Sir John Whitmore. I didn't know him. I was nobody.
Mm.
And he talked to me for an hour and a half and he let me record the whole thing.
Mm. So
Yeah.
tell me more about this addiction because I think you are interviewing more than 180 something.
Well, yeah, 175 or so approximately. And that was for my PhD. And um, because I just love hearing people's stories. Just, I, I mean, and it really let me understand because my PhD was about the roots and history of coaching. Because after I got into it, I realized, well, Thomas thought he started it. Laura thought she started it, and all these other people thought they started coaching. But we were, there was no, we'd lost our connection with the roots and the theories that everybody brought into coaching from their own professions. And so I thought in order to give coaches more credibility, we need to get back to what the roots and the theories are. And they come from business, they come from adult education, from psychology, from all these fields.
Mm.
And we've got to stop thinking that we did this whole thing because we didn't.
Mm.
We were standing on the shoulders of all these other people.
And
So
what I really value in your work, beyond the amount of work you did, collecting, synthesis, the diagram, the map, oh my God, I can imagine the work. It's the way you connect to the roots and you pay homage and honor, for example, to SLN. Wow. To the field of psychology, business, motivation. You mentioned about the inner game. Uh, it's impressive. So for me, the way you shaped your book was a way to honor all this work. And usually when I see in coaching school or nowadays in youngster, the young coach, they do not know where we come from. So I think your book has a precious value. So I hope it will be translated in many languages. You told me maybe to translate into French, but
I
but
was just going to say that again. It's currently in Chinese, it's in Spanish, it's in Persian. I don't know if that one's done yet. It's in Portuguese, it's in Korean,
mm,
but
it,
not French.
not yet. But at least I mentioned your views and few points in my book, but it's just to acknowledge the amount of work and where I'm moved in our connection. It's the way you go straight forward to the core and the essence, the art of coaching.
Yeah, it is the art of coaching. Yes.
So you told me that you met also, you were close with Laura and Thomas, who are both of them the founder of ICF, one of the biggest federation with the EMCC, for example.
Mhm.
No?
Thomas, no, I knew Thomas. I met Thomas in 96 and he died in 2003. Thomas started the International Coach Federation as an alumni group for his students who'd graduated.
Hmm.
And we were automatically in there. So I was number 60 of ICF because I was a graduate of Coach University. And it was more just a club.
Hmm.
Um, Laura Whitworth started the International Association of Personal Professional Coaches, which ended up being the Professional Personal Coaches Association. She did it differently. She'd met David Peterson, she'd met Tim Galway, who became her first coach. She'd met Sir John Whitmore. She'd met all these people because she was a collaborator and a connector. So she invited them to a coaching caucus,
Hmm.
as well as Thomas and Sandy Vilas and all these other folks, to look at what can we do for the profession? How do we bring it all together? And that's where the Professional Personal Coaches Association was birthed. Now,
Hmm.
Thomas didn't go because he was on the outs with Laura at that time. So he didn't go, but anyway. And so that's how there were two professional organizations.
And they merge.
Well, yeah, they merged because at they'd had two conferences. The first conference, I think they were held about the same time. And the second conference, 3 weeks before, the Personal Professional Coaches Association thought, well, we're gonna leave California, we'll do it in Atlanta.
Mm.
And they overextended themselves. And then 3 weeks before their conference, Thomas put his conference. And most of the coaches weren't making a lot of money. You couldn't afford to go to both of them.
Mm.
So I went to Thomas's because that was where my allegiance was. And they lost a lot of money at PPCA, their conference. So they did end up combining the board of the combined organization must have been 30 people, 40 people. They put the boards of both organizations. They kept the ICF name because they're the ones that had the money.
Mm.
But the PPCA brought all the professionalism, what a real coaching association was with standards, dues, and all this stuff,
Mm.
versus the ICF was more of a
The club, you said.
club. Thank you. Thank you. And so they combined, and that's how they became one. And honestly, it was much better for the coaching profession that they were one, because out of that group and the merging of those two types of people, two types of coaches, we got a very strong professional association.
So at this time, it was quite rational and pragmatic, the approach of merging.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
what I understood and what I read, that Thomas and Laura had different personality, combining their skill and talents sometimes. And
Uh,
what
yes.
I see Laura with art and connection and a way to network and connect with people. And Thomas maybe more about the structure, the approach of scaling, something like this. Am I
Mhm.
correct?
It- you hit it on the nail on the head. In fact, when Laura passed away in 2007, um, on and a tribute to her at her memorial was Thomas Thomas was the organization, the popularization of coaching, whereas Laura was the heart and soul of coaching, which is what you just said.
Yes. And we can, I think, because I'm a young, not a young coach, 15 years of practice, but still young, I can imagine. It's like today I can see in ICF maybe the soul and the spirit of the two founders emerging in the connection and the community, the belonging. That could be the heart of Laura, and the structure and the professionalism and the business, and the scaling, the soul of Thomas in a way, systemically.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's interesting to come back to the roots every time in a system. And do you have something more to tell about their personality and the way they establish the core skills of ICF? Because I already had an interview with Pamela Richard and she was in the room. But were you there or no?
No, I was not there. So whatever Pamela said, that's the one. I think about their personalities, though. Thomas, a couple years before he passed, he realized he was bipolar.
Mm.
You could see that happen with his relationships with people. You'd either be in or out with him. He'd be so prolific for maybe 6 months. He would be everywhere doing everything, starting this, starting that, and then he'd disappear for 6 months.
Because of depression?
No, I think it's because of the being bipolar. And he didn't know it at the time. Nobody knew it.
Mm.
But that's how, like, he'd be so generous. He would, like, he at one time he gave away, he had a life planning program or something. He gave it all to Laura and Henry Kimsey House.
Yes.
But then he came back and he took it back, said he couldn't use it. So, whereas Laura was more steady and relationship, and they made do, it was fine. but that was some of their personalities of what was going on. And I think their schools reflected that. And after the merger of ICF and PPCA, Thomas didn't like the direction it was going.
So he
So
stepped back.
he started a new International Association of Coaches
And
and started a new coach training school.
so it was the
Coach,
same pattern, the same business pattern.
yeah.
Mm.
So
In a way, he was a pioneer with a great vision, but also an entrepreneur and uh,
totally.
and a genius, really prolific.
We lost both of them way too soon.
Mm. And from my side, but I don't know if it's because I'm French, I'm from Europe, or maybe I'm younger than the founders. But I was a bit sad when I got into coaching 15 years ago, not to know the origin. And I'm really, enthused about knowing the foundation, either in psychology, whatever, coaching, but also about the founder of ICF. So when I start scraping the web and the books, and when I found yours, for me, it was, wow, this is where we come from. This is where we go.
Right. I was going to say one thing about Thomas, that Thomas was a synthesizer.
Mm.
He took stuff more from reading and reading the introverted personality, whereas Laura was a synthesizer through relationships.
Mm. And this is the core of our practice. I can see the systemic analysis and also the art and the connection. And tell me more about you. What are your influence in coaching? Because you are an MCC, humble one, but you are.
I was an MCC. I let it lapse because I'm no longer in the profession.
Okay.
Uh,
Formerly, you are still a master coach?
I am without the
No.
certification.
With certification. So, what were your influence, your core influence with your coaching
Uh,
and practice?
I'd say my core influence was my trainers,
Mm.
my colleagues, my clients, of course. Because when I coached, one of my statements was I respectfully provoke people. Well, you know that. And that's what I tell my clients. So obviously I got clients, and so I grew and was provoked back.
And when you were younger, you were already like this, provocative, straightforward, speak the truth.
Really good question. Yeah, yeah, I kind of have always gone my own path.
Wow. Because I've been attending, you've got a blog that is really generous and a page, and I saw many conferences. It was when you launched the book, and I can see a younger Vicky, but still with the same soul, straightforward, with humor, but also caustic at some point. And I can imagine with your client, you have a niche, maybe.
Oh,
People who
yeah,
are ready to make a shift.
exactly. I remember one client, he was head up in some big scientific nuclear type company or government contractor. And he interviewed me because I said, I will respectfully provoke my clients. And he says, people are afraid of me. I really want someone who can push back. Well, he terrified me,
Wow.
but I ended up working with him, and he was such a pussycat inside, but his whole demeanor,
Mm.
you know, and so it was, yeah, it was fascinating.
So when I listened to you, what came to my mind was the way you build the safe place and the trust so you can confront.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
So I can see your style and sense that today, what is your perspective about coaching? Because you're retired, but I think that you are still aware about what is happening, especially in the era of AI.
Yeah.
How do you see coaching today, and what are the evolution you can think about?
Okay. I see when I wrote my book in 2012, and I saw different paths for coaching. And one of those paths was that we become more institutionalized. And that's what I've seen's happened. More rules, regulations, and all these things. I don't see as much of the art of coaching. And so getting to I think, this is my own personal opinion, that AI may start replacing some of the more strict cookie cutter type coaching. But for people looking for the art of coaching, AI is not going to replace that.
So what I get systemically is that the institution about coaching with the rules are quite a reflection of AI, and they could influence or let's say not destroy but affect the art of coaching. That is a conversation, presence, awareness.
I don't think AI is going to affect the art of coaching. AI will affect the coaching that's more regimented.
Okay, got it.
Follow these rules. I do it this way. Here's my pattern. Here's my process. AI can duplicate that, but AI will not be able to touch the art of coaching, in my opinion, which deals with the presence, which deals with the dancing with the client.
I love it.
That's just my opinion.
Tell me more about the art of coaching. What is it for you?
Well, the art of coaching it's really the master certified level. I think there's a lot of people that are not at the MCC level that can dance with the client. Pam Richard is a brilliant master at dancing with the client. I remember I was working with one person who was I used to certify and mentor people to get their MCC. And she was a PCC level, very high PCC. She wanted to get her MCC. She could demonstrate, do all the stuff the way it's supposed to be done, da 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 da, but she didn't have the art. And so, she could take notes, play back, do all the skills and competencies really well.
I understand that it was more checking the boxes or more robotic in a way.
But she was very, very good.
Yes.
However, when I challenged her to not take notes during her coaching call, she says, but I won't remember. I said, yes. And if you're not taking notes, your focus is entirely on your client, not on you. So she tried it. She also owned a coach training school. She tried it with one of her coaching students. And the person says, wow, that's the best session I've ever had with you. You were really with me. So because she was with her client, and that was the art. She was able to be and move and whatever instead of taking notes and trying to remember what she'd said back.
It was about presence and dancing, being a flow with the client.
Perfect.
When I listen to your pace and your style now, just now, and I will just provoke a bit. I see a supervisor. I see a supervisor.
Oh, you are provoking, Bertrand. Okay. All right. I wrote articles before I retired. I do not believe that supervision is needed or required in coaching. I believe it was borrowed from the psychology profession, and it was brought in for people that were looking for additional revenue streams, coaching, training, and such like that. And at the time it was brought into the ICF, the president of ICF had his toe in supervision, was pushing it, and I feel that there was a conflict of interest there. mentor coaching according to the ICF, little after, I don't even know, 2000 something. Prior to 2000, it was always you coach the person on their coaching business, their personal life, their skills and abilities, and there was one other thing, but you coach them totally on everything. In about 2000 something, ICF said, we're going to describe one facet of mentor coaching, which would be coaching for accreditation. And that was just one piece, and that was for people who had not gone to a coach training school. And they needed to mentor them to make sure they had the skills because that was part of the coach training program. Somewhere along the way, it got lost that that was only a piece of mentor coaching. And those of us who coached from the early days were still coaching on all the other aspects.
That's interesting because when you mentioned the three facets, coaching on the business, coaching on the core skills, and coaching the person itself,
Mhm.
as a mentor coach, I can see coaching, I can see mentor coaching, I can see supervision, at the same place. And today it's like three silos. One is coaching, one is mentor coaching, one is in supervision. But what I understood that
Explain to me supervision,
I know that
what
you
your definition is of.
I know that you don't like.
Well, how do you define supervision? Maybe I'm not looking at it the way it's
For me,
defined.
it's a reflective space where you help a professional to support the evolution of its practice. But we can go deep without going to therapy, but exploring vulnerability, exploring the practice, ethical dilemmas, and so on. But the way you spoke about mentor coaching, I think that you were doing this at the beginning. And maybe in the way we got lost. And because I'm practicing coaching, I'm practicing mentor coaching, core skills. I'm practicing, sorry, it doesn't exist in my CF, mentor coaching in business. That could be a core skill. So it could be
Mhm.
another core skill for a coach because he had to make a living. And I know
Yep,
that there are many coaches that are not making a living yet.
a lot.
So I think there is a business for working with the core skill and evolution.
Mhm.
There is also something about supporting the growth of entrepreneurs. And there is another one that is supervision today, but maybe at this time, you yourself, you are doing everything at the same place. Taking the
Depending on what the client needed. Yeah, that's right.
So what I see, and thanks for sharing, is that the evolution of the coaching world is, this is my perspective, is working in silos, more structure, more
Mhm.
institution. And and in a way, I'm really happy because of the professionalism. And at the same time, if I'm true to myself, I feel sad about not connecting, not bridging.
Very well put. I I agree because we are multifaceted and those silos, it's like cutting a part of ourselves off. If we said, I'm only a business person, I'm only a coach, I'm only a human being with a family, that sounds like a psychological mess rather than saying, I am a total human being. And I have these different things I do, but I am who I am at the core. Yeah.
That makes sense. And for me today, using the three stance, even the fourth one that could be a mentoring business,
Mhm.
it's all about contracting. What is a request and what is a contract? But I understand that before your contracting was more global about the request and being fully in presence. And that's really beautiful to hear it, that it changed. And it's about the evolution of our world and what is coaching and our evolution.
You want me to tell you what my contracting process was my entire career? What to contract with my clients? Um, I'd send them an email, a little bit more on corporate because I had to do it in a little contract, but my private clients, I'd send them an email and say, these are my rules, you This is what I promise you will get from me. This is what I require of you. You've only got 5 minutes to whine and complain at the beginning of the call. Otherwise, I'll cut you off. And by paying me money, that signifies you agree with this contract. That's all I did.
Wow.
So,
Vikki style.
yeah, and it was, and I never had any issues. And also, I said, you can quit anytime you want. I didn't say you had to sign up for a certain number of sessions or this or whatever. I just said, we'll work until you no longer need me
That's
or
interesting
want.
because I see you really bold and straightforward even in your contracting. And you were an MCC credential playing the game.
Mhm.
So I'm really, it's not impressed, but I respect you are inside and outside at the same time.
Yeah, well, and most of my colleagues didn't do that. They weren't as loose as I was, which is fine. The key is to do what is your style and what works for you. And I would attract people. I had people interview me, and I only worked with people I really, really liked. I felt I could connect with. And if not, I had a whole roster of other coaches, and I knew other coaches well enough. I'd say, you might want to interview these couple of people. Their style, I think, would be better with yours, and they would better serve you.
Hmm. And I see you also as a speaker because I saw your conferences and a business lady.
Mhm.
And I remember the image you gave me the first time we met in a call. It was the lady with pink leather trousers on a Harley Davidson with a boyfriend on the back.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what. So when you asked me, was I always this way? Yes, you just reminded me I've always been this way.
Mm. And your style. And really, what I want to value and my takeaway today is like it's more about being yourself
Mhm.
and being a professional serving, the client.
Because you will serve the client best if you are yourself. It's like I went from that strict business person, almost in a business jacket, straight jacket. And through my coaching journey, I rediscovered my own humanity.
Mm.
And that's what the journey I take others on. And that's really what I want for this whole world, for people to be able to rediscover their own humanity and connect and just make this whole place a better place.
Mm. So you grew with your coaching practice.
Well, I'm not the same person. I mean, I am, but I'm not. Yeah.
And today, because you said that you're retired, how your life looks like as an active lady.
Yeah. My life's really good. I live in a retirement community of about 800 homes. I'm on a couple of committees that we own the place, so we run it. Um, I lead a class of chair weights for people, and we don't have many men, but the women. Um, I swim and ride my bike every day. I
Yeah.
take photographs that are published all the time, and I have lots of friends.
And
Life's good.
do you still writing these days or not?
Writing?
Writing or blogging or...
No, no,
And
no.
what was the reason that you offered me, and thank you so much, I feel grateful, your time to get
Mhm.
one more interview, one more. Maybe you did so many. But did you accept my invitation?
Well, back to when I was doing my PhD and I called these people up, nobody knew who I was. I was just a coach that nobody knew. They gave of their time generously. They gave of who they were as human beings, and they connected me to other people. And I figure If someone can find me, and I never did change my email, so you were able to find me. But if somebody can find me, of course, I'm gonna respond the same way as generously as these people were to me.
That's inspiring, and I feel grateful for that. If you had a sentence of wisdom, that you wanted to share to the audience about coaching or life, what would it be?
Have the courage to figure out who you are and what you stand for and to live that.
Mhm.
And it's not an easy path.
It's a lifetime journey.
It is a lifetime journey, and yet it's a reward you can't imagine.
Mm.
And I feel blessed that you actually connected because now I have a new friend.
Yes, I will send you a picture with my motorbike, but it's not a Harley. I ride Triumph.
Triumph is a good bike. It was too tall for me.
And one more question, maybe before we close. What would be your definition of a good coach in your perspective?
Mm. Someone who has done their own personal work and is on a continuous growing path. Um, and they're able to be in relationship with their complete focus on another human being to have them be successful according to how that person defines success.
Mm. I will put that in my heart and my meditation.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for your time. I feel really grateful for this time today and your book and the massive amount of work you did,
Mhm.
community and for the coach. That's really precious. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Bertrand. Have a good one.
You too.